In my first year of high school, I was simply moving past a young lady who I'd loved since grade school, who shut me down in the most mean manner conceivable. "You're a fat, revolting failure who won't ever add up to anything in a couple of years." All things considered, I'm 17 and as of now an honor-winning photographic artist. In any case, it was for the most part the year where my warm gestures bobbed, starting with one young lady, then on to the next, which was somewhat uncommon for me. That is, until I met her. There was this young lady that I realized through my theatrics class who was 2 years more established than me, and dazzling. I can't actually depict her. It isn't so much that I can't thin of the words, it's simply that I have such a large number of words. Her character was simply astounding, and she was a particularly brilliant individual to be near. I immediately became companions with her, and I realized I was partial to her, yet I didn't understand the amount I yearned for her until a couple of months after the fact. The start of sophomore year. Homecoming was coming up speedy, and I needed to really have a date this all year. Thus, while sitting with my companions in the show study hall conceptualizing a rundown of young ladies I can consider, I look across the room, visually engage with this young lady, and she grins at me. Just haphazardly, yet that grin softened me. It is certainly quite possibly of the most lovely thing about her. It was at that moment that I realized I needed to make her mine. I tracked down this charming approach to asking her to homecoming and ask her before show one day, to which she grins her flawless grin, embraces me, and kisses me on the cheek, however says, "Please accept my apologies. This is my last homecoming and I needed to go stag with my companions." That one hurt a lot, yet it was a decent rude awakening / life illustration in regards to the charming way to deal with asking out young ladies. The one potential gain was, interestingly, when a young lady let me know she was simply going to go with companions. She didn't deceive me about it. The experience didn't prod me from attempting to win her. However, as a matter of fact, it just revived the fire that caused my desire for her. Before long, I understood that I should have her in my life, and I concede my sophomore self became fringe fixated on her for an extremely brief time. However, I before long had reality looked at. It was close to this time, however, that I started to begin fostering my verse and tune composing abilities, so it was valuable. I'm not an exceptionally profound individual as a rule, and out of nowhere having this throbbing inclination when I didn't see her in the day was something truly new to me, and the main way I could adapt to it was working it out in stanza. Approaching the later 50% of my sophomore year, she started dating somebody, a person I knew, as a matter of fact, a person I admired who was 1 year more established than her and 3 more established than myself. He never knew about my kind gestures towards her, so I never truly accused him. However, I was undoubtedly squashed by this. I turned into somewhat surly, raging at my companions who were all in some way in cheerful connections while I was pitiably alone. It was anything but a good time, and for some time I believed it to be the most obscure piece of my new life. However, presently, it seems like daylight, rainbows, and feathery cats. A couple of months after the fact, while we started to float separated on the grounds that I felt like I would play the fool to risk her relationship, or more regrettable, mine with her, she moved out to pursue a higher education. I started my lesser year in secondary school. Half a month into the school year, one of my companions illuminates me that she was single once more. I started conversing with her once more, and everything was falling into place. Before long, winter split came up, and I was for the most part finished with saving my affections for her, which I had been endeavoring to do since her relationship. Yet, when I just found her beyond a general store one evening, basically everything I had done suppressing that large number of feelings for her recently detonated. Practically everything I had done to move beyond her was squandered. Soon thereafter, I recently hushed up about thinking, hello, perhaps in the event that I simply tell her how I believe, I can either cut off up in a friendship with her, or worst situation imaginable, will in any case be companions, and it'll be off my mind. Similar to Ted and Robin in the primary episode of Hymium. Sadly, neither have had opportunity and energy to meet, and I most certainly couldn't hold on until summer to announce my affection for her. So I concocted ways for me to tell her. a call could finish the work. However, consider the possibility that she's occupied or with companions. What about an email? Nah, excessively generic, as is IM. Gee, video talk? Nah, I simply could do without going through the web. I ought to think of her a letter. That is awesome. We both love mail, and truth be told, we have a month-to-month mail correspondence. So I spill my guts onto 3 pages of a transcribed, with a plume on material, I might add, letter. Presently, I don't precisely recollect what I said in the letter, yet I know its gist, which fundamentally told her the amount I cherished her, why I love her, and so forth. I began to say how, in the event that she doesn't exactly feel the same way about me, I comprehend. I'd trust we might in any case be companions, and simply fail to remember completely about this entire letter. The following day, I go to the mailing station, and when I drop that letter in the receptacle, I ponder internally, poop, this was a terrible idea. Furthermore, goody gumdrops, was I right? Presently, I knew from previous experience that it ought to just take perhaps all of 3 days to get to her. I figured she'd look out for it, think of me back, and I'd have my reaction in somewhere around 10 days plus or minus from the date I sent it, which was 2 days after New Year's. I never envisioned how much hanging tight for a letter might actually eat at me for those 10 days. However, soon it became 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 2 months, and it started to torment me. What's more awful is that she shut down all correspondence with me. I realized that letter held a great deal to take in, yet I didn't figure it would take such a long time. I started to feel that I truly messed everything up here. I shouldn't have sent the letter and demolished something extraordinary. I fired pounding myself since I assumed I was a nitwit for playing the fool. The multi-month point started the most obscure time of my life, which raised to where I was so furious with myself that I started to simply punch walls. In a real sense, punching walls. 3 months is... I started to drink when I found it took a great deal to get me tanked. I began getting pretty reckless right now. I severed a lot of ties with companions, since I was a harsh individual. I actually spent time with my nearby circles. However, at whatever point I could, I was never nearby around my companions. I turned out to be fairly pessimistic about affection, letting myself know I won't ever cherish a young lady from now on. In any case, observe. I not even once accused her, fair myself. My companions started to imagine that this, as a matter of fact, was the most unfortunate thing about this entire experience. I obviously positioned her upon this platform, which fundamentally implied she couldn't possibly be at fault. Then being distraught at her for not composition back and essentially setting me into this pit of despondency, I just faulted myself for getting her in such a peculiar position where a person 2 years her lesser in admitting his affection in a letter. Following 5 months of torment, I genuinely don't have the words to portray. I at long last got a reaction. You got it. Not the most ideal reaction for my affection, yet it was a reaction nevertheless, which I found rather rapidly was the explanation I felt so tormented. Suppose you were somewhat dry, and you requested a glass of water. You never get your glass of water. Yet not just that, nobody lets you know that you're not getting that glass of water, and you're simply staying there endlessly pausing. Ultimately, you start to consider the reason why you requested water in any case. Perhaps you asked some unacceptable individual? No, you most certainly asked the ideal individual. However, for reasons unknown, they aren't providing you with that glass of water. You can live with that. Yet, the way that they didn't promptly let you know that they won't get you that glass of water begins to wear at you. Following 5 months of this pointless heck, one of our common companions at long last advises her that she really wants to hit me up. She sends me an email saying that she's sorry she never hit me up, and that she attempted a few times, however erased it at the prospect of me being disturbed when I read it. That's what she said. However, she realizes I realize the sentiments aren't responded. It was quite possibly of the most heartfelt motion that anybody's finished for her. Her reaction took a load off of me in a real sense. Toward the finish of the 5th month, I had started to believe that perhaps I was the self-centered one, since I needed more out of the companionship than I had. Those 5 months caused me to understand that as long as she's basically in my life, my days were better. Presently, right around 4 months after the fact, things are simply lively. I concede. I truly do in any case have a firm opinion about her still. Yet I have acknowledged that it just won't work out, and I can't prevent myself from figuring what might have occurred assuming I met her further down the road. I really do accept she might have been an ideal one for me. However, I have additionally acknowledged that I was only not the most ideal one for her. And that's all there is to it.